Welcome to the Mum CEO podcast. I'm your host, Esther Roach. Join me as we explore the dynamic intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. From the challenges to the triumphs, we're here to unravel it all. Get ready for insightful conversations, practical wisdom, and a whole lot of inspiration. Let's embark on this empowering journey together. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mum CEO podcast. I'm your host, Esther Roach, and today I'm joined by Ife Thomas. Hello, Ife, and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, you're most welcome. So, just for the benefit of the audience, if you'd like to introduce yourself and what you do, please.
So my name's Ife Thomas. I'm a mindset and confidence coach and a motivational speaker. But I've kind of moved into a phase of helping people with their keynotes. So I'm a storyteller and I teach other people how to share their stories in an impactful way and build a commercial keynote.
So, Ife, you speak about the role of connection in growth. How have you used this in your own journey, basically, to get you to where you are today?
Connection. Wow. So I think it all starts with self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, if you don't understand yourself, then it's really difficult to understand other people. And then also, the more you love yourself and like yourself and pour into yourself and are kind to yourself, the more you can be kind to other people. And that means you give other people the benefit of the doubt and you look for the good. So it's, you can have a benevolent worldview where you see the world as a wonderful, fabulous place, or you can have a malevolent worldview where you look at the world and think that everything's bad and awful and horrible. So I always choose to look for the good. I always choose for benevolence. I want to believe that everybody is good. Everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have, and to not take things personally, So even though we've spoke a lot about the challenges with neurodiversity and some of the real stigmas that are faced with being a mum who is autistic, who is running a business, who's raising two black boys and who are autistic and trying to do all of that stuff, what gives me the ability to keep connecting is the belief that things will get better, that the world will get better, that people will get better, and that most people are inherently good people. It's just, there's a great book I love by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Dee Perry. It's called What Happened to You. And I love that because if you start, instead of saying what's wrong with you, when people act strange, or you say, I wonder what happened to them. I wonder what happened to get them to be this way. And that means that you're looking at it from a different lens. And I think that's how I stay connected, how I build strong relationships and build positive connections with my clients, with my community, with people, is because I'm always coming from a place of, I wonder what happened. I wonder why you think that. I wonder where we can find a common ground. I wonder how we can move forward. I'm always trying to help us evolve and do things that bring us closer together than push us apart. So that's kind of my mindset, and I know personally that the more I connect with myself, the more I can connect with the world.
Well, that's an incredible answer on that. And, we spoke a lot about, your two boys as well and the support that you're giving them. So everything you're mentioning here about understanding people and sort of thinking from a different angle, really, rather than making it a one size fits all, or you look at somebody and you just immediately think, oh, yeah, they must be like this because of that, without even understanding or reflecting in a slightly different way, I suppose. You have done a lot of work in terms of, you've mentioned being self-aware, but you've also mentioned the confidence side. And you seem to have done quite a lot of work around, working on yourself to build your own confidence, but equally imparting the same to your own children. How has that journey been for you? And, how do you feel your children have taken to it and in themselves, and how they react and how they act around, outside, at home, at school, everywhere?
Yes, confidence is really the key.
Mm-hmm.
And I I think that if you're raising a child, the most important thing is to teach your child how to cheer for themselves. Because a lot of parents always most parents are like, you can do it. I believe in you. I love you. Like we live in a world where parents actually say, I love you to their children now more than maybe like 30 years ago. In the world I grew up with, it wasn't really touchy feely kind of parenting, but we've kind of evolved to the point where we know that the human beings in this world need to be loved and held. They need unconditional love. So the things that I've recognized very early on is that I can be a cheerleader for my child, but that means nothing if they can't cheer for themselves. Mm-hmm. So cheering from yourself is confidence. Having the confidence to cheer for yourself, to believe in yourself, and to speak kindly to yourself is such a key. And I didn't really discover that until I was about 19 years old. I was at an event and there was a speaker there called Clive Gott, and he wrote a book called Believe You Can. And I remember reading this small book and him breaking it down, like the way that you engage with yourself, the way that you build your own self-confidence. And that kind of created a light in me. I thought, well, actually confidence is something that you can learn. It's a skill you can develop. So yeah. I wanted to be confident, and I didn't just want to be, so you can be confident when you are surface level confidence, but I teach people how to build unshakable, unstoppable self-confidence, the kind of confidence where you can take it wherever you go in any room. It's not just it's not situational confidence, because everyone's got a bit of confidence when they're in their comfort zone, but can you be confident in any zone? And that's kind of what I teach. And the very core of it is the words you say to yourself and how you cheer for yourself. So for my children, I installed it in them very, very young. My children are very self-confident, and people think confidence and arrogance, they're two separate things. People who are arrogant lack confidence, have, deep rooted limiting beliefs about themselves. They're actually, people who are arrogant are really not confident. The most confident people that you'll find are kind, caring, open, adaptable, flexible. That's what comes with confidence, because they know who they are and they believe in themselves and they don't get offended, and they don't have this like inflated sense of who they are. They just like who they are, and they give themselves the benefit of the doubt. They forgive themselves when they make mistakes, and they're really kind to themselves, which means they can be kind to the world. It's a bit like, I always say to my clients, imagine you've got 3 bottles, and inside one of them is full of orange juice, one of them is full of water, and the other one's full of like toxic chemicals. If you were to poke a hole in any of those bottles, what comes out is what's inside. And that's how we are as humans. You can tell if someone's horrible and being unkind and mean, that's because that's in them. And that's been put in them by other people or themselves. So you only express what's inside of you. So if you love yourself and believe in yourself, that's all you express. You don't have the toxic chemicals to express. You can't, if you don't have orange inside of you, you can't pour orange out, So I always go back to looking at, well, what's coming out of them is what's in them. So for my children, if you ever spend time with them, and this isn't me going, my children are amazing. My children have been brought up in a way that is so organized. Like, I mean, the methodology that I've used to raise my children is from reading hundreds of papers and studies and books on raising happy, healthy, confident children. I mean, I was obsessed. My whole parenting is built on a framework that I created, which was they start their day every day. They start their day by looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, I am somebody, I am good enough, I can do anything, I like myself. They say that twice a day from when they were little. Every day if they drop a drink, or yesterday, my son's 30, he was running from the living room to the kitchen, and he had a salt pot, which is an electric salt pot with 3 batteries in, and it flew out and the salt went everywhere. My response was, I said, oh, wow, Quincy, let's pick this up, shall we? He said, yeah. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. I said, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Are you okay? I'm okay. I said, do a body check. Are you okay? Well, we can pick up some salt. He said, oh, what if it's broken? I said, well, if it's broken, it's broken. Is your leg broken? Is your arm broken? And in those moments, I was responding knowing that in that moment, he will feel bad because he's maybe broken something and caused a mess. My job is as a parent is to show him how insignificant that is. So in my words, in my language, and I said, I'm going to get the Hoover, I'm going to Hoover it up. I said, can you find the battery? And all the time I was thinking, give him the power to find the battery that's flew somewhere. Give him the power to try and fix it. Let's fix it together, but let's keep reinforcing that this is not a him problem. It's not his fault. It's a thing. And then when he went and sat down and ate his dinner, I said, gave him the biggest hug, which I wouldn't normally do at dinner. I gave him the biggest hug. I said, I love you. You're amazing. I said, you are an amazing human being. And then he said, looked at me and said, I love you, mummy. So I basically balanced, because he could have been thinking, I'm useless, I'm silly, I'm forgetful, I'm clumsy. I don't know what he was thinking. But I knew that if that was going in his brain now, then my job was to blow that thought process out the window by how I responded. It was very mechanical parenting. Like the way I parent, on the outside, it looks like it's natural. It's mechanical. I'm thinking, how do I make sure that he knows that this is not terrible? What should I do in this moment? How does he like? He likes touch. My other son likes words. Okay, I'm going to have to use my love language on him, which is touch. Touch and words of affirmation together changes him. So I'm constantly being like, it's not even natural what I'm doing. I'm creating these simulations that will support them to have high levels of confidence and self-esteem. So when I see them in the world with other people, the teachers literally come to me and say to me, his teacher said to me, I wish everyone was like Quincy. He said, I wish every child was like your son. And I said, sorry? She said, he is kind, he's hardworking, he's caring, he has empathy, he wants to do well, he speaks his mind, he's honest, he creates boundaries of what. And I'm like, whoa. And then my other son, the teacher said, he wins the kindness awards at school. He's kind, he's caring, he's thoughtful, he's intellectually, his level of emotional intelligence is so high, higher than his dad's. Like emotional intelligence for a 12-year-old is off the scale. I mean, all of his friends are like, like, I call him Professor Cuba. He's like so in touch with who he is and what. And this isn't because I'm an amazing parent. It's because I did all the research and everything I read, everything I studied on how do you raise happy, healthy, confident children is love them unconditionally and teach them to cheer for themselves. Those two things. Everything else. Am I loving them unconditionally? And do they know that their love will never be taken away? I won't use my love as a weapon. Like, I'll love you more if you do this. I'll take my love away if you don't do that. I don't do none of that rubbish, put them on the naughty step and walk away from them. Like, that is just unbelievably terrorizing. And I would coach a lot of teenagers from that era whose parents would use that as a weapon. Like, you were naughty, so I'm leaving you and walking away from you. It's just the worst thing you can do to a human being. When they've done something wrong, reject them. No wonder people are so fearful and got anxiety if their parents are raising them like that, based on a book by a woman who doesn't have children. So I realized I'm not following that. If my child does something that's unacceptable or doesn't live up to my ideology of the kind of human I want them to be, at 3 years old, I would say to my son, I had a sand timer because that's what they told you to get. He did something and I said to him, for 3 minutes, you're going to sit on the bed and you're going to sit there and think about what you've done. And I'm going to come back after 3 minutes. As I turned my back, his cry got so loud, it hit me. And I thought, this doesn't feel right. So I went back to my 3-year-old and I said, what do you need? He said, can you sit here with me while I think about it? And I said, yeah. And I sat on the bed with my 3-year-old who was crying because of something he did. And then after I said to him, I said to him, the reason I sat you on the bed is because you were jumping on the sofas and I asked you not to. And he said, but why can't I? It's fun. And I said, it is fun. I said, but if I'm honest with you, I don't mind you jumping on the sofas. But I'm afraid that when we go to Nanny's house, you'll do that at Nanny's house. This is me talking to my 3-year-old. And he went, but I won't do it at Nanny's house. I said, okay, well, I don't mind you jumping on the sofas here, as long as you don't do it at Nanny's. And he says, why are you scared that I'll do it at Nanny's house? I said, because I think the nanny will think that I'm a bad mum and think that you're a naughty boy. And I don't want anyone to think that of you. He goes, okay, How about we do it at home, but no one else's house? I said, okay, then. That was a 3-year-old with my 3-year-old. And that was when I realized this one's the 12-year-old. And
Yeah.
also this child, we were told he's a genius. He's got an IQ of 128. So he's incredibly like smart anyway. But we didn't know that at the time. But I just knew the best way I could parent him is to ask him what he needs and be open with him about my own vulnerabilities. Like, if so I talk to my children to explain to them my thought process. So if whenever we go to a family event, I get a bit tense and I'm like, boys, turn your iPads off, put them in your bag, wipe your face, let's get out of the car. And he goes, Mummy, why have you put that horrible voice on now? And then I'm like, what horrible voice? I'm like, he goes, well, whenever we come here, you suddenly become all strict and horrible. And I said, do you know what, Cuba? I think it's because I'm getting anxious because I want them to see how good you are. And I know that if you walk in on your iPads, we will get judged. And I don't want people to judge you and think that you spend on your iPad all day. And then I said, and then I don't want them to think that I'm the kind of mum that lets you play on your iPad all day. And he was like, but you do let us play on our iPads. And I was like, I do. And I think it's fine. Okay. I said, okay, let's put our iPads away and let's go in and try to like look like an ordinary family. And I said, but if you want to just be yourself, I said, it's really mummy's issue. So I realized that it's my issue. I'm acting weird because I don't want people to think I'm a bad mum because they're on their iPads, when really I let them on their iPads when no one's watching anyway. So I'm telling my son, basically in that one interaction, is hide who you are and don't be who you are when other people are watching because it's wrong, which is not what I want to say. So actually, I let you go on your iPads because you learn a lot of information. My son learned how to speak Japanese. He learned how to count in Japanese, count in Russian, count in Italian and Spain before he was 7 years old because of his iPad, not because of me. I can't speak in different languages. So I believe that the iPads are powerful if they use them in the right way. So why am I now trying to make it look like I don't let them go on it because I'm worried what people will say? So I'm constantly being open and honest with my children about what my fears are and I let them know mummy doesn't have all the answers and mummy, has some issues that I have to work through. But let me just tell you, there's nothing wrong with you. Like you're good. Just allow mummy. Mummy needs a moment to prepare myself to go into this space. And they're like, okay. So it's a conversation. I have conversations with my children and to answer your question, how's it helped them, is that I know that if I was to not go to bed tonight and not wake up, they will be fine. Like I have no fear that they won't be able to move through this world with what I've given them to this date, which is self-esteem, confidence, and goals. Like I'm like, who do you want to be? What do you want to do in this world? Because it's up to you. So I hope that answered the question. I'm very passionate about and my children.
Yeah, no, I can see that, but also it's really interesting that you've mentioned there the whole fear of judgment, because I think we see that quite a lot. And unfortunately, like I'm a mum of five, everybody parents in a very different way. But if you're instilling the right values, within your children, but also being open and communicating with them, because I am a big advocate on communication, because I just think that nobody knows what the other is thinking or what you're doing or what your train of thought is if you don't actually say, this is why I think X. You're kind of setting them up for failure if you don't really open up, if you don't communicate with them, and then they get to teenagers and you hear all sorts of stories of they lock themselves out and stuff. So we are still very much open. I remember my little one, especially during COVID, because she kept saying, oh yeah, I was telling my teacher that we have parties all the time at the house. But we do that. We had music, we danced, and it was just a way, one, we are still staying connected, but also we're all going through this thing together. And I think it's really important to have that. Otherwise you could just easily shut down and then you just close everybody down. It starts from the top. You're in the house leading them, and they're not going to know any better unless you assist them and help them. And also because you're self-aware, that really helps them as well in the long run. I think with them watching you and observing and seeing what's happening in the household. So that's really, that's really interesting. And thank you so much for sharing that. What would you advise other parents that are kind of like in the I don't know what to do stage, and how can I best tackle my own situation with my family, regardless of what they're going through, especially around the confidence side.
That's a really good question. I love what you said about your daughter saying, "Oh, we're having parties." Like, yeah, the fear of they're going to think this. But I think the one thing that I say to most parents who ask me, I always ask, and I say it to my husband, and I've said it for years, and I don't need to say it anymore. I say, "What's important here? Like, what's important here? Like, what the most important thing is that my children grow up able and capable to live their best lives, like to be independent, so that they're excited to go out and live in the world. Like that's the goal." So I always say, is what I'm doing helping encourage that and move them towards that, or is it not? Like, what is the most important? I always say, what's important here? And when you say that, you know what's the most important thing. So
Yeah.
when parents, I get a lot of parents speak to me whose children are school avoiders. Maybe they're not going to school. Parents are like, they have to go to school. They have to go to school. I'm like, what's important here? You want your child to trust you and to feel safe with you and to feel secure. If the school that you're sending them to doesn't support their needs, doesn't help them, your child's having anxiety, do you want to get a phone call, or do you want to go up to their bedroom and see them hanging from their door? Like, I'm like that, because that's where we can get to. Like, I think a lot of the time parents get this idea they're missing the point. They're missing the point all the time. They're like, they need to go to school. They need to get their grade. At what cost? Like, at what cost? So the question is always, what's the most important thing here? And then I ask myself on the other end, I say, what is the worst possible thing that could happen?
Yeah.
And am I happy for that to happen? Like, if I keep forcing my child to school, I keep forcing the teachers who don't want my child in the school, what is the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
Do I want that to happen? Would I be able to cope with that happening? Okay, then. So maybe we should circle back and have a look at who, and also I'd say, so you ask yourself this, what's the most important thing here? What's the worst thing that could happen? And am I okay with that? And the next thing is, am I meeting them where they are? And that is every human being. Meet people where they are. Don't get them. There's this thing, who was it who said it? And I loved it. People always say, I want people to treat me. I treat people how I want to be treated. No, you don't treat people how you want to be treated. You treat people how they want to be treated. Like that's like one of the biggest backwards way of thinking. So that's like saying, I'll make you a coffee the way I like it. No, I make you a coffee the way you like it. Why am I making it how I like it? That's not relevant. And that's kind of the world that we live in. Everyone's like, well, everyone has the same. Everyone gets the same. I treat people how I want to be treated. No. Meet people where they are. Treat them how they want to be treated. Give them what they need. That's the bottom line. And that's for your children, your family, your friends. Stop treating people how you want to be treated. Treat them how they want to be treated. So that's my advice with your children. Treat your children how they need to be treated. If you know that your child doesn't do mornings well, don't insist that they get up in the morning and have a shower that like terrorizes their body when the water comes, especially if they're hypersensitive. Like, why would you do that? You'd say, okay, we'll do a bath. We'll do a nice soft bath in the morning for them. If you have a child that is like, you have to drag them out of bed and a bath is just going to make them go into a coma and they're going to fall asleep at school, then you say to them, I think we should have a shower this morning. You don't say both of my children have baths. No, one might do bath, one might prefer a shower. Maybe one of them doesn't like to shower in the morning. They like to shower at night because it's too much for their nervous system to deal with. Then don't do it. Maybe one of them has an electric toothbrush and the other one can't cope with having an electric toothbrush vibrating on their teeth. Both of my children have electric toothbrush. Why? One of them can't cope with the electric toothbrush. Give them a normal one. I think too many parents go, my children have the same. I treat them the same. I'm fair with them. Yeah, but they don't need the same. So stop trying to treat them, because now you're squashing them into boxes. You have to be individual and you have to meet each child where they are. You have to meet each person where they are, and you have to give people what they need, not what you need. And I think that's my advice. And I think that works really well for me. and I see it work for my clients when they finally get over themselves, because we
Yeah.
do get, we're very self-obsessed by what we want, you
Yeah.
know?
No, that's true. I've got five, like I said, and every one of them is different. So what applies to one is not the same. So even activity wise, I don't expect them to be doing the same thing because they are all very different children. But you've just got me there with the whole sleep. I've got one who doesn't like waking up in the morning. So I completely get that side of thing. But I know that I need to allow an extra half an hour, just to
Yeah,
make sure that she's up and she's ready. And I can't rush her no matter what I do. It's not going to work. So I have to work with her to make sure that she's ready on time and actually manages to get her breakfast before she goes out for school. But, whereas the other ones, they're so quick, easy, they just have to hear me going upstairs and that's it. They're awake. And it's like so easy with her. It's like, no, there's no way on earth. So that's really interesting. I've had the pleasure of speaking actually to a couple of your ladies that were on your program on storytelling, and I just wanted to find out a little bit more about, whom you work with and sort of what you do with helping women get their voices and share or, storytell basically.
yeah, I love this. This is like my favorite thing to do. It doesn't even feel like a job. It feels like I'm getting a download of somebody's whole life, and I'm getting the cliff notes, which is beautiful for me. So I've explained like my obsession for learning and developing and growing, and I've read hundreds of books. I mean, at the beginning, when I first started at 19, I've read nearly every personal development book I could get my hands on, and maybe once or twice. I go to as many events, learning talks as I possibly can. And then in about 2014, I discovered Audible, and I was like, wow, this is a game changer. I can actually get the books in my ear so I can learn while I'm driving. Fantastic. Another quicker way to get information. But storytelling is like supercharge my learning, because when someone tells you their 20-minute keynote story of their life, they're going to give you all of the takeaways, all the best bits, and they're going to give you like the condensed best stuff. So you don't need to even read their biography. You're getting it all in. It's a bit like, that software, is it called Blink, where it like summarizes a book and
Oh
tells
yeah.
you like basically, yeah. So it's like better than that because you get the emotion and the learning. So first of all, it's an absolute privilege for me to sit down and listen to people's stories. And because it's in my universe, the mind workout universe, means that my job when they start working with me is just to ask them as many questions as I possibly can about their whole life so that I can understand the narrative of their story. So I will take them back and across and into different places that they haven't thought about for years or never even thought about. And it's like I'm a detective, and I love it. I love getting a full understanding of the human being in front of me. And a lot of the time it's a coaching session as well, because at the end, they're realizing that the reason they think that way and the reason they act that way is because of something that happened like 2 decades ago,
Yeah.
or there's something consistent in their mindset. It's amazing to watch them uncover. So what I love about working with these people is that I create a space where they can share everything about themselves, but I'm going in there like a detective to find what is the through line. Like, so I have a very specific reason for asking the questions, and I'm pulling out. And anytime they say something that's irrelevant in that, I'm like, move on. So I'm very impatient. So, and they like it because I'm like, get to the point. Right, where's that? Okay, stop with that. You said this. I want to dig deep on that. They're like, that's not relevant. I'm like, it is. I want to know more. And it's such a fun experience because it's like I love it. I absolutely love it. So the first thing we do when someone joins our program is I work with them for 90 minutes to discover their story, their message, their commercial keynote, their takeaway. And I get a whole hour and a half just to understand them. And at the very end, and this is definitely God's gift to me, and I think it's a build up of everything from when I was 8, all the stuff I've done, studied micro expressions, body language, tonality, people. I'm obsessed with understanding people and why they do what they do. So this thing happens after I've asked all the questions and gathered all the information. The best way I can explain it, it's like everything that they've said, all the words and all the stories and all the images come off the page and out of the room and into my head. And then a movie plays in my mind while I'm in front of them. And then I speak the movie out to them like I am them. and I record it on my Otter. So I'm saying I'm embodying them, and I tell them how I would tell their story if I was them, with all the important parts. And at the end, every single time, they either cry, they cheer, or they're like, "Oh my gosh, how did you do that?" And then I give them their story and say, "This is your talk that you were going to deliver that's going to make you a lot of money and help a lot of people." And then I give them the talk, which is a script. They go away and then they join the program. And then all 10 people I do that with before we start. So everyone comes onto the program knowing exactly what their message is and what they're going to say. And then I take them through the 6 weeks, over 12 weeks, because we work every other week, to actually craft it, deliver it, communicate it, and then pull it apart and bring the story. And then I teach them the business side in the last three. The last three kind of modules are: how do you actually become more visible? How do you get your message out there? How do you get paid clients? How do you position yourself? How do you make your speaker show business? So the first part is the show. How do you deliver the talk? How do you present it? How do you emotionalize it? How do you communicate it? The next part is how do you sell it? So and I love the whole thing. It's like my favorite thing to do, and it doesn't feel like work. And then the people become part of. And the beautiful thing is on the first session, everyone reads out their talks that I've given them to each other, so the room can feel each other's talks. And also it means everyone instantly is connected because they're telling a story that they've probably never told to anyone. So it's like the whole thing is just like divine. It's literally, and I pray before I do every one, I pray. Like, even if they're not a Christian, I'm like, can I just pray to make sure that what I need to do? And they're like, yeah, sure. Most people I work with are Christians, but quite a lot of them are not. And they let me pray because I'm like, I have to pray over these words so that when I share with you what I'm hearing from everything you've told me, that it's actually completely true. And that I've worked with, I've done this with more than 50 people, because I did it in 2021, but in a different way, where I'd help them with their story, but then they'd do it on video, not deliver it as a keynote. So we had the brand story package years ago. So I've done it with about 50 people, and every single time it comes from, I get it every time. Like every time, it's like, never am I not able to deliver, and it's amazing. So yeah, and then I think about, as a speaker myself, I want them to do it on a stage. I want them to have the lights, and I want them to have the audience, because I know it works. The cohort knows it works. They need to see the wider public, how the public resonate with it when they share their story. What does the public do? How does it lay with them? And then that allows us to create the show reel, which allows them to then package themselves up now, and then we can push them out to the market. And people who've just finished now, 2 people have already got paid speaking jobs. One £2,000 speaking job, another one got, I think, a £500 speaking job. But the point is that they're already making a return on their investment with me already, So I'm just like, this is a great business. I have no idea how to scale this business though. So I do not know how to scale it, because it takes up 12 weeks of my time. And then I'm constantly on WhatsApp with them, like never ending. Like, I offer that. It's a never ending service. Like, tell me where you get that. Anyone who works with me, you're in my life until I die or you die. That's what I say to them. I have people
they love you.
They're like, we love it because she's so available. Story is part of my story now. So my job for my legacy is to get you to keep sharing your story, because that's part of my legacy. So I need you to keep showing up. So if you need me, message me. So my WhatsApp, every day I must do a minimum of 50, 60 WhatsApp voice notes to different clients that I've coached even 10 years ago, still message me and say, hey, but
incredible.
And I have the capacity, because I know each one of them so well, that I don't have to think, oh, how do I respond to that? It's like a knee-jerk reaction. They'll say, if I already know what to say, because I know them, because I've already worked with them. We've already built that. Like, it's not like a doctor has to go through your case file and think, oh, let me see, what's the prescription? I already know them, because part of my autism is I have a photographic memory. Once I've met you and I've spoken to you, I'll never forget you. I won't forget where I was, what I was wearing, where we were sitting, what time of day it was. I will not forget anything. It's like imprinted in my brain. So my brain can just recall it, and then I can just act as if we've been working together last week. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's incredible, isn't it?
I thought for this gift. This gift is like, I thought my autism is a gift. I think my the way my brain's wired allows me to do this. Like, I'd never want to lose my autism now because I feel like this is attached to the autism.
To
This
what
is
you
why,
do. Yeah.
because of my pathways of, they're set in a way that can hold words as pictures and images and can be stored in a file in my mind that I can access whenever I want. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
gift, and
that's
I think,
incredible. It is a gift because not many people can do that. So it's an incredible gift. And I know, like I said, I've met quite a lot of them actually, not even two. I've met loads of ladies that have been working with you and I can just see their confidence and how incredible they all are, but also the importance that, now they actually realize that actually my story is worth sharing, because that's another thing where you hold back and you think, oh, does anybody want to hear that? And you kind of think it is going to help somebody. So well done on you for helping them share their stories. Um, so if anybody wants to work with you, where can they find you?
oh wow. So I'm all over social media, so they can just type Ife Thomas into LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm not great on Facebook. I don't use it that much, but you can find me, or you can just go to ifethomas.com and just fill in a little form, and then it will come via my universe and I will find it actually that way. But we've got cohort 3 that's starting now in May. So I'm
Okay.
currently for the next women or men to join my cohort. Um, so if anyone's thinking, oh, this could be right, then it starts in May and then you'll deliver your talk in August. And then we do the cohort 4 will start September. So it's like a bit of a machine at the moment until I figure out how to scale it. We'll keep doing it and keep doing it.
God, yeah, no, that's incredible. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, Aoife. I think we can actually have 20 sessions and talk about so many different things. But it's been absolutely incredible, and thank you so much for sharing everything that you have shared today and just enlightening. I think the audience will really listen with intent and actually pick something and learn something from all the things we spoke about. Is there any sort of last words of advice or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on this wonderful podcast. It's been fun. Just getting to just speak freely, unedited, which is nice because normally when I'm doing things, I have to really think about the narrative and the story and the message. But I just said anything that came into my mind, which is wonderful for me to unorganized way. So thank you. And you made me feel very safe here. I think the thing I would want people to listen to and to leave with is to sit down and really think about what is your assignment. What are you here to do? And I heard Priscilla Shearer, she said this, and it always makes me think now, makes me want to cry. She said that we've all got an assignment, and it doesn't matter if we're 20 or 30. We might think we're young, but if we're only here till we're 40, then we're pretty old. Or you might think, oh, I'm old because I'm 50, but you're here till we're 100, so you're pretty young. The point is none of us know when we're going. So when you're going through your life and you're going through your journey, always check in and say, what's my assignment? What was I put here to do? Like for me as a Christian, I'm like, what's God's plan for me? And am I actually honoring? Because when it comes to the end and I turn up at those big gates and God looks at me and says to me, I put in you so much for you to do, and you didn't even do any of your assignment. You were busy doing all these other things.
Mm.
That would be quite hard to face for me. Maybe not for others, but you have to just sit with yourself and say, what is my assignment and what am I here to do? And every day work towards it in some way and know that you are here for a reason. And I think if you live your life with that level of confidence, like I'm here for a reason, and if something's happening to me, it's either to help me, teach me, or prepare me. I think everything in life is a lesson. It's either a lesson that's going to prepare me for something that's coming,
Mm.
or teach me something so I can move forward towards the assignment. So my final real words to anyone listening is know that you are here for a reason and that you have in you greatness and you're supposed to do something. and ask yourself, am I willing to get to the end of my life and not have done it because I was so busy distracted with TikTok? You know, I was too busy watching other people's lives, or too busy feeling sorry for myself, or, you know, trying to, a lot of people get busy trying to blame other things and other people for their problems and challenges. But to be honest, like, what I'm trying to say is that whatever happens, happens, but make sure you follow your assignment. Stay true to your assignment and follow your assignment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ife. It's been an absolute pleasure having you today.
Thank you for having me. It's been very fun.